will be loved and cherished and not be seen as a burden. I dream that a girl child will not be aborted even before she has taken her first breath. I dream that every girl will get a good education. I dream that no girl will get weighed down with the burden of housework. I dream that no girl will be the victim of incest. I dream that no girl will be forced into early marriage. I dream that no girl will be the victim of marital abuse, rape, or sexual assault. I dream that no girl will suffer discrimination or harassment in the workplace. And when a girl becomes a mother, I dream that she will pass on the right values to her sons.
Tell me, what inspired you to start this charity, VidhyaDhan?
Right. I think the short answer to that is that my mantra is education, education, education. In this information superhighway joined up big data, Internet of Things world, knowledge is power, and knowledge comes from education. Therefore, I think education is power. I have a dream of educating as many girls as I can to empower them to face the challenges of this world head on. Now, you might ask me, why start my own charity? Why not give to NSPCC or Save the Children or another girl-centric charity? And for that, I'll pass you on to my colleague on the left.
Hi. Well, we both always wanted to give back to society, and we were at an age where we retired. We wanted to do something useful. We'd moved to Bangalore, and we're quite sort of not experienced enough in this sort of thing. So we wanted to get some experience, get a feel of how we can help to make a change for children in India. So we worked with an organization, NGO, and we learned how they did it to a certain extent. But they were a bigger organization, and we always didn't want to get involved in any kind of waste, maybe salaries or bonuses, etc. And the funds that we raised, we wanted to go that into the frontline service. So therefore, we decided, I think it's best if we just start in a small way, but build it up. And having learned the lessons, and now we find that all our funds go, as I said, to the frontline service. And last year we had less than 1% expenditure on our overheads. So, we've achieved that so far. And also we had another approach. We wanted to take the holistic approach to our children. And that's what we're aiming to do. The aim here is to be a one-stop shop for their needs, such as fees, books, uniform, counseling, home setup, and lighting, for instance, because there's a lot of them who don't have lights to actually put on electricity at the end of the day to do their homework and to do some studies. We're also very flexible. We could do that because we're a smaller organization, and the fact that we can actually monitor everything that we do. And we're flexible with our funds, and we use them, particularly in this time of pandemic, we use them to make sure that the children got their online lessons. So we bought them tablets. Most of them got it so they could carry on with their online lessons. Plus the fact, the biggest thing is there was a lack of food. The parents had lost their jobs, therefore they weren't able to provide them with food. So we actually gave them what is called in India rations, but it's groceries. We were able to provide them with that. So therefore our flexibility comes into use when we decide not to be rigid. That's all we're going to do. No, we can go further outside our little remit and be much more helpful to the children.
So you decided then to go with your to start your own charity. What were the early kind of challenges that you faced when you were starting the charity?
VidhyaDhan's goal was always to help underprivileged kids go to school. So the initial challenge was how to identify whom to support, because there are a lot of kids in our neighborhood whose parents work as maids, drivers, caddies. And the minute you decide to help one family, you then find several more at your doorstep. And everybody wants help. So we had to come up with some criteria based on which we obviously decided to pick. We were working with a limited budget. So identifying the right kids to sponsor was one of the first challenges we had. Another big challenge is communication. Most of the families, as you know, are illiterate. Parents, kids are just about, getting into schools now. So in those days when we first started this charity, most of them didn't even have a phone. Or if they had a phone, they couldn't read the SMSs if Thangam and I sent an SMS. So how would we communicate? We would actually have to pick up the phone and call each of them and tell them we want your marks or we want your fee receipt. So the challenge then was communication. Now over the years, many of them have phones, some of them have smartphones, but still it doesn't necessarily mean that we can send them an electronic message, all of them at once, and they will be able to respond to us. So even now, Thangam and I have to actually communicate with that challenge still continues. Another thing is whenever we receive information from these kids, right? Because they cannot send it to us electronically, they physically come over to Thangam and my house to give us the receipts, to collect something that we have to give them. So limited the kids that we picked. The kids had to be somebody from our neighborhood who could actually reach out to us physically to collect things, hand over things. But years, I would say it has become much better. Previously, it was just kids from our neighborhood, from our workplace, but now we do have kids from different villages or, different parts of Bangalore, and we are able to communicate seamlessly. Problem was many of these families didn't have bank accounts. So when we had to transfer any money to them, or because of the schools that they study in, the schools did not have proper accounts to give us. So would have to withdraw cash, hand it over to them, then they would bring back a receipt. So it was all just tedious. But now many of them have bank accounts. Some of them who study in private schools, the schools have bank accounts. So we are able to seamlessly transfer directly to the school or to the parent. So that makes the accounting more transparent, more seamless, and it's much better now than it was. And another big problem was once we give the money, we want receipts, right, for our accounting purposes. Many of the government schools, the local shops, they just give handwritten messages, book 50 rupees, pen 10 rupees, and then you have to set it up and match it back to the accounts and match it back to the donation. So it was a big task. But now I think everything is working very, very seamlessly because most of it is electronic and direct transfers. So I would say a long way since we started.
If I could just add a couple of more things to all that Rashmi's been saying. What would happen was that when we started supporting children of our staff, then we realized that other friends wanted their children, the staff of the children of their staff also to be educated. So then we were like saying, now what do we do? Do we really support? So we had to kind of streamline and say that since we want to educate a girl child, we're not going to say no, but we will only, part pay for that child, and the rest of it has to be paid by the employer. So, we had to arrive at this. Then when we were helping out in paying fees, there would be other expenditures that any family would require. Like there would be transport, because these children have to, go to school and come back from school. Then they all needed tuitions. So they would, so do we pay for transport? Do we pay for tuition? Do we pay for the vitamins? So, for their nutrition. So, they were all challenges for us. So in case, as per what we required, and as we sat together and said, maybe this person needed and this person should pay at least, this parent should at least contribute towards the transport for their child, because everything can't come free. They should also learn to, to spend whatever they are earning. So these were the kind of issues that, we faced, and we tried to overcome them as we went along. So it's been quite a journey, yes, because we find that identifying, choosing the right families, making sure that the money is properly used, getting them to understand what we want from them. All this has been, our learnings as we went along. Yes.
One of the challenges that I faced, or rather one of the lessons that I learned, was that you couldn't just put a child in a highly academic school and just expect the school to take care of all the child's needs, because these children came from a very humble background and they had real problems in adjusting to an English medium school. So we had to give them extra help. We had to try to train the parents on how to check their homework, how to check the homework diary. And so this is one of the things we learned quite early on, that we had to try to find the right kind of school for the right child and not just parachute them into a highly academic school.
Slowly be put into place, donors need to know how well these children are doing, and they need to track, in some ways, whether they are or they are not, but we owe it to them. So we started doing quarterly reports on our children. Once a year we would have a nice get together, and we would do a good write up of that and send them pictures of their children whom they are supporting. And so that became, that is what we realized that we have to do as part of the growth of VidhyaDhan. And of course the greatest challenge, of course, is that follow up with all our parents. Again, grades from private schools come through email, there is no issue, but government schools do not easily give grades of children. They don't part with it at all till the end of the year. So we have been talking to the principals of schools and telling them that these children are the education is supported, so the people who support them need to know that they are being educated by them and how well they are doing. So so the follow-up is a challenge, but again, we are getting there. We do have some very, very motivated parents. We do have some parents who are laid back because it's in their DNA. It's not that they are bad parents. They just don't see the need to do it. And then we are after them, and then we try and make sure that all the grades come in, because we want to know that every assessment of our child, of our VidhyaDhan child that has been made, has to be known to us. We can't let that go. So that has been, the follow-up has been one of our biggest challenges, but we are dealing with it. I think for Rashmi and me, it's a huge challenge, and but we face it and we deal with it. And the other thing that has happened with growth is that we've got now children not just from our area. They've become more scattered. They're from different localities and they're more scattered. So that is the challenge we face, that we obviously can't get them all together often, because they are all coming from different areas, which could be like 30 kilometers away, which could be 150 kilometers away, which could be 20 kilometers away. So it's not easy to get them all together. But the once a year annual event, we kind of make it compulsory that they all should come, they should meet, and they should know each other. And but other than that, keeping tab of these people. So Rashmi, so what we do is we have divided the children. So many Rashmi takes on, so many I take on, and then we deal with our children and make sure that this all the things that are required, the fees, the bills, the receipts, the grades, everything comes to us on time. I'm only going to talk about the VidhyaDhan parents, right? So to tell you the truth, almost all our parents, except for a very, very few who would have just finished school, all our parents are illiterate. So they have not been to school, or they're all school dropouts. The usual that we've been talking about, by the 4th or 5th standard, they drop out of school. The moment they come of age, they've been married off. So many of them, they are about around 30, 38, 36, 33, and they have 15, 16-year-old kids. So you can imagine at what age they would have had their babies. So they are illiterate. Then they come from these. There are a lot of them. Even the ones who are couples, we try to identify single parents, obviously mothers. Almost all are mothers. Either they have lost their husband, or husband has left them, and they are fending for the children. So they have a very difficult role to play, because they have to go and they have to earn, and most of them work as maids, as staff in homes, because to make two ends meet. So they are so caught up with that they do not have too much time for their children. So the role that they play is that they need to get up in the morning and get the child ready for school, and make sure that they have a tiffin dabba, a box of food packed for them, and that's about it. And then they come back, and then there's some food available. For many, even that is not available. So that is all they do. And because of us, they can keep, they say you have to study, but they cannot help them in any way with respect to the education of their child, if that's the question you're asking. But what I want to say is that what VidhyaDhan has done in their lives is they're very small things, and they're very simple things, but they're just amazing things. The first thing that it has done to them, to these parents, is that it has taken off the load from their head, that come the month of April and May, that they have to put together money to pay for their fees, buy the uniforms, buy the books, buy the bag. Many of them can't even afford a school bag for the child. And children, whatever it is, want a bag that all the other children carry. So those do turn out to be a little expensive. They can't afford it. So that's what VidhyaDhan has done. They don't have to worry now. They know that come April, they just have to make a call and say that the school is asking for fees, and the fees will be there for them, and all the other expenses that go with going to school. So that is what it has done. The other thing that we kind of forced parents to do is that they have to just seeing that their child goes to school is not important. So they have to make periodic visits to the school. And whether they understand or don't, they need to go and meet the class teacher. They need to ask the teacher how these children are doing. And, and that kind of an accountability has to come. So they've been doing that. And with that, there has been a connect with the school. Some get to hear that they are naughty, some get to hear that they are doing well, and whatever they come and report to us. But that is what has happened, because we tell them that this is what they have to do. The other things that, again, as I said, that giving all our, we've been, to make the donors accountable. We've been telling them, so we've been doing some recordings of the children. We've been sending all the, it's not just about education, but it's, things like, they win a competition, they do a dance performance. So for these parents, it's just one more thing that they do. So we tell them, no, all that is extremely important for a child. And not only for you should be happy about it, but we as people who are running this are extremely happy about it. And our donors are very, very happy to know all this about our children. So there is now what has happened is that there is a huge sense of involvement that has happened of parents in the education of their children, from what it was to what it is now.
There are different systems that you have talked about where the children are experienced to the different types of education. Are you able to give us your explanation of what the difference is between the state and the private schools in India?
Sure. So Just like every other country in the world, we also have what we refer to as the state or the government run schools and then we have the private schools. I mean, to keep it at a very simple level, we have the state or the government run and the private. Now, the state run schools have a curriculum that is referred to as the state board. I mentioned SSLC, so that is the state board. Now, this curriculum you would think is probably the same across all states in India, but unfortunately it's not. So if somebody moved out of Karnataka and went into Tamil Nadu, they wouldn't really be able to transfer so easily. But that's how the education is in India. So that's the state board, and the state curriculum and the content of study material is fairly simple. I wouldn't say very simple, but it's simpler than some of the curriculum that's studied in the private schools. Now, in these state schools, the medium of instruction is Kannada. It's going to be the mother tongue of that state. So each state has the medium of instruction in its own mother tongue. So that makes it very easy for our children to follow along. But then again, as Tangam pointed out, most of our parents are illiterate. So they don't necessarily get the help at home, but this is the best they can put their children through, the state schools. Now, English is taught as one of the subjects in these schools. So it's not that these kids are only studying Kannada. They do learn English as one of the subjects. So they manage to do some written English, some amount of spoken English. There'll be a lot of grammatical mistakes, but they do get exposed to English as a language. Now, these schools have very modest infrastructure. They lack basic facilities. You know, many of them won't even have decent running water in the toilets, lights in their classrooms, fans. I mean, it depends on the funding that they receive and how big the school is and how much they're able to support. So these are very, very modest. The teachers are very few in number. But what encourages people to send their kids to state schools? I mean, why do they do it? One, as Tanga mentioned earlier, the expenses here are very minimal. The tuition is usually covered by the government. There are other expenses, but if this is in a village or something, there are companies around who, as part of CSR, their corporate social responsibility, they sponsor some of the expenses. So once the kids get into 8th standard, I know that in the government schools in Karnataka, they get like a cycle from the government. Now we have industries here who will provide some infrastructure. Instead of the school having not a brick and mortar building, they will help them with some things. So things are getting better, but still it is very, very modest infrastructure. So one, the fees is less. Second, the government pays for something called a midday meal. So kids that go to these schools actually get a free meal. So that takes the burden off the parents. If they have 2 or 3 children, they at least don't have to provide them a meal in the afternoon. So that's another thing that encourages people to send their kids to these state schools. Now, the private schools have different curriculum. Now, we have a central board that has defined some curriculum called the CBSE and the ICSE. Now, the interesting and the important thing to note here is if a kid transited from one state to another, anywhere in India, right? If they are following the CBSE or ICSE, they can transition very easily because it's going to stay, the content and the curriculum will stay the same across any CBSE board across India. So that is the benefit of being in a private school under these. Recently, in the last few years, some international curriculums have also been adopted in schools in India. That's the IB and the IGCSE. So if somebody studies in those, they can easily get admission by passing some entrance exams into like a UK or a US. So those curriculums have also come in recently. Now, these private schools teach, as I told, CBSE, ICSE, but some private schools also teach the SSLC, the state board. So there what happens, a kid can go to a private school with good infrastructure, still study the state board, which is simple syllabus, but then they'll be taught in English. So their English is much better. The CBSE and ICSE cannot do that. They cannot teach state board. They have to stick to the curriculum that's prescribed by the center. Now, the good academic experience or the experience of the private schools is they have much better infrastructure compared to the government schools. Their medium of instruction is mostly English, but the cost at these schools is much higher. So usually kids from middle class and upper middle class and higher class, they go to private schools. The VidhyaDhan kids by themselves wouldn't be able to afford to go to these private schools. So what we have done, if we give our parents a choice, they obviously want their kids to study in English. They obviously want them to have a good academic experience. So they say, okay, please put them in the CBSE schools. But as somebody pointed out earlier, the CBSE curriculum can be very hard on these children to cope with because parents can't support them. And English is a foreign language to them. So let alone understand and cope with the course content, which is difficult, learning it in English also becomes a big challenge. So what we do is we assess the kids and we see if they're really good. We then counsel the families to make the right choice of school. I think Mr. Baldev pointed out earlier about, helping the kids go into the right school. So we work with the parents, and of course we want them to have a good academic experience, but we cannot just put everybody into private schools because the experience there is good. So we have to find a balance between what the kid is capable of and then accordingly counsel them. Therefore, VidhyaDhan today has a mix of kids, both in the government schools and in the private schools.
How many kids do we have in private schools versus state schools?
Some of them are in what we still call the government colleges, and very few are in a private college. But a good percentage, like he pointed out of 40, maybe you could say about 70% are in government and 25 or lesser in private.
The attitude towards girls is quite negative. What do you, in your view, what are the fears of highly educating girls and fitting into society?
I mean, yes, there are lots of fears. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There are so many things that, especially adapting to change, is never easy. It takes time. Society is still not ready to accept people who are, strong, independent women. It's true, but that's something that really needs changing. We as a team, we've had so many discussions about this. We really want girls who have ambitions we want to support them. We want them to achieve whatever heights they want to go to. We're fully there for them. We're not going to step on their ambition if the society thinks that no, a girl shouldn't be doing this or a girl shouldn't be doing that sort of thing. Yeah. And especially these girls are going to be the role models for the future generations. So these girls are going to make that change so that the society thinks it is, yes, a girl should get full education, a girl should be able to financially support the family. So there's so many things that needs to change, but yes, every girl that we will help educate is going to make it easier for the next and the next and so on. So it's just a matter of time. It's going to take time, but we will get there, definitely. But I can just think of that society where every girl is educated and every girl, then they instill those good values in the children. Society is going to look very different in the future, where equality is going to be the norm. What a man can do, a woman can do. That's what we're aiming for. Yeah.
So in addition to a good education, what other life skills do you think girls should learn?
Right. So education is one aspect, a very important aspect, but one aspect to shaping the life of these girls. There are so many other life skills that girls need to learn from a very young age to feel empowered. One of those would be self-awareness. Again, from a very young age, girls should feel that they need to develop that self-worth and self-esteem, which we see in India. There's so many girls, they don't feel that. And again, it's all the society, the pressures and all those things that's caused it. Another thing is the confidence to express themselves, confidence for them to voice their opinions and to be actually heard. Also is things like decision making, problem solving skills. Again, I think it just comes down to those years of inequality where men made all the decisions, where women were not involved in that process of making decisions. They're just sitting on the side, do what the man's saying, and and then just get on with life. So that's something I think the girls, they need to know, that firstly they have the right to make the decisions, and also they need to have the ability to make the right choices, to make responsible choices for their futures. Also, I think interpersonal skills, again, that's something they do learn that, when they go to school, interacting with other students, interacting with with teachers, that helps improve their interpersonal skills. Something that is so important for them to grow into independent women, strong women, and be successful in their lives.